I recently got my hands on the new Pantheon Stylus truck, and so far I'm loving them. They fit perfectly on my pranayama, and if I had the Hokus available in Germany, I would have already tested them on that board as well. The center feels very nice, and due to the normal longboard bushings, the lean also feels very pronounced. I'm not really sure whether this is from the plug bushing or just the truck geometry in general, but even on rougher grounds, the trucks feel very well on my pranayama. It feels like they get centered easily. I feel it just jumps back to a stable position, kinda like a hammock. But of course, after all, it is still a skateboard truck, which is a product that is not too complex. So to understand what went into designing this truck and how it sums up into a single skateboard truck, I had a talk with Vyain, the owner of Pantheon Longboards, to explain to me what this truck is all about and help me understand how the specifics work. There is an easy way to test how straight the axles on your trucks are. Take your truck, put on some wheels, and then push them in and out. If the truck moves, it means there's a little bend in the axle. And turns out that on my set of Stylus trucks, they are almost that straight. So how does that work?
First off, the stylus that you have, the Pantheon truck that you have, is perfect, and I don't think they're not all like that perfect, but they're all very, 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 very good. That Paris truck that you have there, I think it looks like it's a very good one, and they're not all that good. So, but that's not to say that's nothing specific about Paris. That's true to like almost every truck out there. So it's very hard to find, a really straight axle. And it's for a cast truck because it goes through a heating process and when the truck heats and then it cools, there's shrinkage that happens and it affects the straightness of the axle. So that's part of the allure of the machined axle is that it doesn't go through those same processes. And it's part of what makes a cast truck not as good as a machine truck.
Yeah, that's completely understandable, and that's where people are mostly in the, let's say, high performance segment. Of course, rely on CNC trucks, but you probably can't tell how you got the axle so straight, right?
Um, well, I can't tell because I can't even be. I mean, if I could be an asshole and just like and and pretend like just everything that I do is perfect, you know.
You're doing
But
pretty
the
good.
truth is we did a lot of testing. We tested multiple axles. We tested lots of different bushings. We do a lot of testing, and I settled on what felt like the best possible configuration of our truck. So that's how we got a straight axle. I can't even promise you that the next run of axles is going to be as straight as this run. I freaking hope so. But there are variables at play here that I don't fully understand. What I do understand is that, taking time to produce a really high-end product, testing, multiple configurations, multiple, bushings, multiple, axles, multiple kingpins, whatever, all that stuff. That stuff it all pays you back in the end of product, and we don't spare any expense when it comes to doing what we think is the right thing. I could certainly make a cheaper truck, but I feel like it's my mantra to make a better truck, and that's what we tried to do.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably try to make a cheaper truck, but the truck is very fairly priced. This thing is not expensive. It's very competitive.
No, it's not. It's not terribly expensive, and frankly, I probably should have charged more for them. But I'm used to paying for other people's trucks, so I get them cheaper than I pay for other people's trucks. Not by a lot, but by a little. And I was like, well, that margin works for
hmm
me as long as I can make this, work as a business. Then
hmm
then it's good for me. And I don't. We're not a truck company. That's not to say that we don't treat our trucks like a business.
hmm
But what I really truly believe that if you make a top tier product, people are going to want that top tier product, and they're I think it pays back in volume. Hopefully, like people buy a lot of our trucks because they're the best option.
On the Stylus trucks, the axles and the kingpin are hollow. What's that all about?
It's just lighter weight. Um, Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of benefit in terms of strength to having, a solid Kingpin. There's like a sample Kingpin that I've got. This one's a solid Kingpin. It doesn't, you don't really get anything, not a lot of strength out of it being solid. I don't remember the exact math, but it's somewhere around like 90%, 97% of the strength of this object is on the like outer, millimeter or so of the metal. Yeah. So it actually plays the same way with boards. When we design boards, the it's oftentimes it has so much less to do with like the material choice in the center of the deck as it is just about filling that space. So the thickness of the deck is what counts, and then the majority of the stiffness of that board actually comes from the outer layers. So we can adjust flex by pulling in the fiberglass from the outside and putting it underneath. We can increase the stiffness by bringing the fiberglass to the outside. The fiberglass takes a lot of the strength of the board, and because it's the outer layer, that's like it's a major factor in how the board actually feels underfoot. So same thing as as a Kingpin here is like the hollow axle. The hollow Kingpin is still extremely strong. It's just lighter weight.
On my pranayama, I really enjoyed the Paris trucks. So the question is now, why would anyone change from Paris to Stylus trucks? What is the main difference?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, I love Paris trucks. I mean, we and still do. I That was what I would consider the gold standard as far
Yeah.
as how I wanted the board to feel. That
Hmm.
that isn't necessarily like doesn't mean it's the gold standard of skateboarding. I mean, I think the independent, is probably that, but
Yeah.
and I think indies actually feel great. That was my second favorite truck.
Hmm.
But what I wanted was essentially the Paris like feel, and that just had to do with like depth of turn rather, and the really like free flowing feel in the middle, right at center, because there are trucks out there. Ace is a good example,
Hmm.
and I know a lot of people love Ace trucks, but personally, like that center feels too stiff for me on the Ace. I know people love the depth of turn on the Ace. There's a lot of turn on an Ace truck,
Hmm.
um, but they, but for me, when it comes to commuter board setup on a pranayama, that free flow center really matters a lot
Hmm.
in terms of just controlling a board in traffic and stuff like that. So
Okay.
that was kind of how I defined my standard for what we wanted to feel, and then when we I sort of started with similar to Paris geometry. It's a little bit different because we wanted to try to get a little bit more clearance out of the truck, so we changed the turning angles just a little bit.
Okay.
But
Can you
then
just Mhm.
yeah,
can you give just an estimation about what you changed compared to the Paris truck? Because I think that would be very interesting to people.
yeah. I changed the Kingpin angle.
Hmm.
Now it's not like I had a Paris file. I just did some like rudimentary measurements. I did my best to
Yeah.
measure things, so the Kingpin angle had a lot to do with it, and then I really wanted a deeper turn, and I wanted more flexibility and
Hmm.
bushing choice, and so we designed the truck for longboard bushings, 0.6 inch tall bushings, and then we added the insert bushing.
Yeah.
And I had tested this with a Paris truck. I don't know. I could show you what I did if I knew which one of my trucks in front of me were the ones that I
Hmm.
tested. But I like bored out the Paris truck, and I put an insert in there, and
Yeah, I did that too.
yeah. And so what we wanted to do was we wanted to add grip. That
Hmm.
was kind of my beef with TKP trucks when it comes to usability at speed.
Yeah.
Um, is that they lack grip and they float they kind of like when you start getting to the edge of grip, they just kind
Hmm.
of float out on you, and it gets scary. It gets scary if you're trying to grip a turn, you know.
Yeah.
So we wanted to get some of that back, and the insert bushing was part of that, just to reduce slop overall with the truck as much as possible.
Another question was whether they perform well in downhill and free ride.
I've taken them personally. I mean, probably only 30 miles per hour or so.
Hmm.
But I that's kind of at the point where for me TKPs start to feel a little like
Hmm.
unsettled, you know,
Hmm.
a little unsettling. And so it, at that point, it's like once you hit that speed, you know whether or not you feel comfortable, you know,
Hmm.
versus you know a Paris truck or any other TKP truck.
Yeah.
And for me, I still felt comfortable. Now that said, they are very lively. So they the trucks they're very reactive. So if you
Hmm.
give them input, they will react. So there is that element when you're going fast on those trucks, that especially if you're running them loose, they can feel almost like overly reactive. But you can tighten them up just a little bit, and they end up feeling really stable going downhill.
To come to the topic of tightening them up, I've seen you running them on the pranayama with the Hoku wheels.
Hmm.
Those are actually not available yet in Germany, which is kind of a bummer. But
Really, they almost, if they're not now, they really, it should be right around the corner, because we have shipped them.
I have seen successful attempts at running really big wheels with the Stylus trucks on the pranayama, and people did it by actually tightening down the bushing quite a lot. How does that work?
Um, Let me grab a truck real quick.
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
be They're right here. Okay, so I think what this is that it's what I'm experiencing and what I believe. I mean, at the end of the day, again, this all comes down to testing. You have
Yeah.
theories, you know, you work on your theories, and until you test things, you don't really know. You're just operating in theory space.
Hmm.
So here's what I believe is what we're doing. First, one of the things that we did that's really important, I think, is that this fit right here,
Hmm.
the Kingpin and the bushing and the hanger hole there,
Yeah.
it's all very precise fitting. It's a perfect size. I mean,
Yeah.
everything was designed for each other. So we have, it's a very good fit. And then what we experience here is that we have a bushing going through the hanger, and then it's attached to, another bushing,
Hmm.
and everything's tight fitting. There's no air there's no
Hmm.
pockets. So we have essentially a closed system. And so because we have a closed system, when we tighten this down, you know, you tighten down your Kingpin, you're compressing, that system together inside of a
Hmm.
closed system, and it actually provides proper restriction. Um, but it's a very lively design. Having the Kingpin, be precisely, your hanger precisely turning and centered around your Kingpin
Hmm.
makes the truck lively and precise. So we tighten down the system. It closes up. It tightens all of the components of that system up a bit,
Hmm.
and it runs tighter, so you can run Hoku wheels on it, but you don't get rid of the lively geometry. So yeah, it
Hmm.
it it works. It works really well. And something that I I think we're probably going to do in the future. We'll probably end up putting a cupped washer on the board side,
Yeah.
um, just because. I have found that, if you want to run Hokus and you want to actually run the trucks a little bit looser, you can still run them looser and put a cupped washer board side. And so I think we're just going to make that stock, and it'll make the trucks even more versatile.
Interesting. I'm going to test that.
Yeah, it works, and that was thanks to a buddy of mine, Gavin, who he just he tries everything, and he was like, I was surprised because I had made the Hokus work for me, but he was getting wheel bite, and
Yeah.
and he changed the cup washer over there, and he was like, "Oh man, this just changes the entire truck." So again, the experimentation just really pays off. I wish I did everything up front, but sometimes you learn after the fact too.
Will there be new bushings from Pantheon, and what bushings are compatible?
I'm not sure yet
Mm-hmm.
about us providing. We have a really solid bushing shape, and I like it, but I need to go through the process of like durometer testing and really doing just more testing and really feeling confident in what we've got before we put it to market.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not there yet, but there are options. You can always use bare bushings. Those they're not the exact same, but they're very close. This is a bare bushing,
Mm-hmm.
and this is our bushing. This is an old prototype bushing, so
Yeah.
it's not the right color, but there you can see like this is a flatter edge. I don't know if these are machined
Mm-hmm.
afterward. No, the backside is machined. You can see the
You can
machine
see that.
marks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the pour. They just don't have any. They don't have any chamfers or fillets around the edge of the bushing. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. Look at my bushing and then make sure I'm in the camera. But yeah, it's a bear will fit in here. I mean, I guess let's we can test it on the fly. But the size of the insert should be the exact same, and I believe a venom bushing will also work, but you have to
For
just
the
like
caliber
if
trucks,
you're
right?
using, yeah.
Yeah.
So the venoms that they make the nipples just a tiny bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
So people they usually just rub that on grip tape and shave it
Yeah.
down just a tiny bit. So that's also an option.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds fine.
that fits just fine.
Perfect.
Yeah, you can see the real
Mm-hmm.
nice. Well, it's dark on dark, but yeah,
No, it looks clean. It looks very clean.
it's a perfect fit. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
so
you.
those are kind of your options right now. I do think there need to
Mm-hmm.
be more options in and the other option is that I believe Pat's Risers 3D prints
Yeah.
inserts for bear trucks, and you can just use a 3D printed insert into regular bushings.
Cool. Cool. Sounds good. I mean, you know the distance guys. They're like really, really particular about their bushings.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. I think I need to do more experimenting myself, but I'd like to try these out and de-wedge them and see how how they
Mm-hmm.
pump. I think I've been told that they're really good, but in order to do that, you would need to soften up the front and stiffen up the back.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to figure out a solution for that, but I'm sure there is one.
Yeah, that's actually a question that people also told me that how do they feel on the Supersonic? Do you have tested that or?
No, I haven't tested it yet. No, I am like I have too many things I need to test, and that's one of them. Right now, I need to put. I'm designing a wheel right now, and I need to decide on my wheel size,
Yeah.
and I want to make it absolutely the maximum size that it can be for our cruiser deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, I'm like I got to do some experimentation on that, and now I got to do a supersonic too. It's just yeah, been very busy lately. I'm thankful for it.
That sounds good. I mean, the response to well, from my side, every time I have like a Pantheon board in one of my videos or posts, people are just interested in that. They really love the board, and I mean, the Supersonic I think is at this point the gold standard for distance boards. I mean, Adam Ellis shows that it certainly works. So you're doing something right.
Yeah, yeah, it's working. And it's not just Adam. I mean, I think the year before we even had released the Supersonic officially,
Mm-hmm.
we took it to the Broadway bomb, and I mean, part of it obviously is that I gave it to the right people. Yeah, But we went 1, 2, 3 with the Supersonic at Broadway Bomb between Adam, Daniel, and shoot, who got third? I'm trying to remember. Um, I think I'm having a brain fart, but Eric got fourth on a trip. I'd have to like go back and look.
Yeah, sure.
Who
I
would have
mean,
who would have gotten third? Sorry.
that's cool. We're getting sidetracked. That's kind of an issue. No, is there anything else that you would say is important about the Stylus trucks that we did not yet talk about? Or anything else you would like to have the people know about it?
Um, hmm. I mean, I think we covered everything. I mean, there was one other thing that was a pretty substantial difference between this and the Paris,
Mm-hmm.
and this and most other TKP trucks,
Yeah.
is the fit of the pivot into the pivot cup.
Uh-huh.
If you get a look at this, it's going to be hard to show on camera,
Oh no, I will
but
get in footage there.
yeah, it's a true like it fits the whole way around perfectly
Mm.
around the pivot. So I mean, I designed this pivot for this, this pivot cup or the pivot cup. I designed the pivot around the pivot cup. The
Mm-hmm.
pivot cup already existed. I didn't want to have to like come up with new molds and stuff like that. I was like, all right, let's decide on a pivot, and now I'm just going to design the truck for these parts.
Mm.
And so we it's just a perfect fitting component. Everything fits exactly as it's supposed to, and I think it gets reflected in the ride.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Then one last question about the Stylus truck. Will it be able to make Jesus Cinco make the 300-mile mark on the next Ultra Skate?
I don't want to speak on behalf of Jesus Cinco. I am sure that he can do 300 miles on a pranayama and Stylus trucks, but in 24 hours, I don't know. That's a feat. Oh, one other thing that maybe is worth mentioning is just that this truck it's kind of the modern way of casting, but it's the more expensive way of casting. It's called pressure casting. So it's a stronger truck than kind of like your classic.
Mm.
Um, I don't want to speak about because I don't know who does what, but I know like for
Mm.
example, Paris V3s are pressure cast, whereas
Mm-hmm.
V2s were not pressure cast. And dancers used to bend the shit out of V2s, but
Yeah, I heard
they went
that.
to V3s now. Yeah, they don't really bend trucks anymore. So this is a pressure cast truck. It's like one step below forgery, which is just it's a very very strong material. So again, like just no expense, was well, I don't know what the word is, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I know what you mean.
we spared no expense to make these as perfect as we could.
I think this sums up the Pantheon Stylus truck very well. Thanks, Jeff, for taking time out of his busy schedule. And I hope you liked the video and see you in the next one. Bye.